Hello, everybody, and welcome to the long-awaited season premiere of Authored Content. I am Morton.
Nice to meet you, Morton.
Yes.
That's a good excuse. I never thought of that.
I am Morton. With me, as always, I have my co-host Ray Vigilobos.
Hey there.
James is stuck in traffic, so he will not be able to make it. But we have.
Is he trying to get the new iPhone or something? Like.
Apparently, he's trying to drop off his kid at school. To which I say, you're trying to drop off your kid at school at 3 p.m.?
A likely story.
What kind of school does your kid go to? And with me today, we also have Simon Allardyce.
Close enough.
Allardyce.
Ayadithe. Allardyce.
Yeah. Allardyce.
Yeah. I'll
so,
answer to any mispronunciation. It's fine. It all works.
So this week, interesting things happened in the fruit industry, to which we will talk extensively. So just any of you want to start by introducing what exactly happened and why it matters?
I'll pick that, considering that I'm definitely a bit of an Apple fan. Yes, so we had a terrible stream event announcing some really nice stuff, the next kind of evolution of the phone, the 6 and the 6 Plus, and of course the long-awaited Apple Watch. Much technical goodness for you to wear on your wrist. Surprises were, no new iPad announcement, no. I don't know what's happened with the TV. That's kind of just disappeared off the radar. But the two things that everyone was expecting, and there's been huge pre-sales on them, and it all looks good if you're an Apple fan.
Yeah, definitely. I think my first impressions were, of course, I'm going to get one. Let me get that out of the way. Because I was going to get one anyways, regardless of what the heck it was.
Really?
It looks really cool.
No.
I think that I was disappointed a little bit by how fat the thing was, and it just that thing at the bottom to me looked uncomfortable. But a great job as usual with just the delivery. I thought the U2 thing was a little odd, and you could tell that those are not actors; they're kind of people trying to do something. So if you haven't watched the show, at the very end they announced that they were going to give away U2's album to the entire world, but it was through a scene with extremely horrible acting by the CEO of Apple and U2's Bono. They announced that, and it was just so cheesy that it was not something that I would expect from an Apple event. Right. Sort of like a publicity stunt, but the iPhone 6, surprised that it's bigger. That they did go with the bigger iPhone 6. I'm really, really curious to find out what people are actually going to buy, because I will not get the bigger one. I will get the smaller one. I think those phablets are too big, so I'm really, really curious as to what's going to happen there. What did you think of the phones, Simon?
Well, I think they look good. I have ordered a Plus. I've ordered the big one.
Oh, wow, okay.
And that's kind of less from necessarily completely personal preference, more that as a developer, for one, I kind of really I need to have that. I need to, I can simulate the others well enough. I'll have the 5S, I have a 5, I have a 4S. I might as well have the big form factor one. So that was kind of my reason as much as anything. I mean, I'm kind of surprised, Morton, that you haven't joined in with the quoting, Steve Jobs from back in 2010 that nobody's going to have a phone. Nobody's going to want to have a phone until you can't put your hand around.
I did that the day before the announcement. I said, just so you guys don't start, rewriting history, Apple has been insisting for the last 10 years that the iPhone is the perfect size. When they now release 2 new phones, don't pretend that never happened. Because there was a very specific reasoning behind not having a larger phone. And apparently, Apple is now seeing, oh, crap. Android and Windows Phone are both rolling bigger phones, and people like them. So we were wrong. But instead of admitting to that, we're going to make up some ridiculous nonsense about how we invented large phones so that everyone is actually stealing that idea. So,
straw man argument.
Okay.
Straw man argument.
No. Let me be completely non-biased about large phones for 1 second. as I said, Android has had large and medium-sized phones for a long time. What I've observed in talking to lots and lots and lots of people who have them, because every time I see someone that has one of those gigantic tablets that they put on their head to talk to, I always talk to them, like on the SkyTrain, on the bus, wherever I see them, and I ask them about their experience. What I find is the only people who appreciate the large phones are the ones that have the Galaxy Note. And the reason why they like it is because it comes with a pen. And when you have the pen, you can like write things on it and you can do all these things that you can't do with the other ones. The ones that have the giant phones that don't have a pen, generally just find them annoying because they're too big. So what I think is going to happen here is either you're going to see an increase in the number of people who buy some sort of stylus device for the larger phone, and people are going to start doing all the drawing stuff, and Apple will roll out some sort of layer that you can put on top of like a website to draw on it, like the Galaxy Note already has. Or you will see that a lot of people will buy the giant phone and then find it extremely annoying, because it is super annoying. Just imagine putting it in your back pocket. I'll tell you, the first true story, the first time I saw the Galaxy Note was in the Samsung store in Metrotown in Vancouver. And I was introduced to it by one of the women that were working there. And she said, "This phone makes you more healthy." And I said, "How?" And she said, "It's so big, you have to have it in your back pocket, and then you can't sit down."
Yeah, that's the thing about the phones that are bigger. I think when you see them, I've always gone, wow, that's really cool. Like I can see things a little better. Things are bigger. I can watch my movies better. But then you see the thing like on somebody's pocket, and you're like, there's no way I would get that. That thing is just way too big, and it looks obnoxious. You can't sit down. I think Apple is still right, and I predict that the bigger phone is not going to be well bought, well purchased. It's good for them to have them. I do think, like, for some people, like I'm not a very big person, so for me that smaller phone is a really good size. But for somebody with big hands, obviously the bigger phone might be a little more comfortable. Yeah. But other than that, I think that we're going to have this kind of, it's sort of like, have you ever seen that technique called high-low pricing, where they always give you three prices and one of them's high, one of them's low, so that you'll buy the medium one? I think they needed to have it just to quash any sort of issues with other people going after the quote-unquote bigger phones, but I really don't think people are going to like them once they start using them.
I'm interested to see, again, I probably wouldn't have picked the big one on hugely personal and completely personal grounds, but I want to have one just to program for it. Now, the thing about, going back to that kind of quote of Steve about, well, it was 4 years ago, because I went back to look it up, and I'll be fanboy. He was right, because his quote at the time is, "Nobody wants a phone you can't put your hand around." And if you think about the Franken phones that you had then, which was things like the Dell Streak and the Evo 4G, these guys were like, half an inch, 2/3 of an inch thick. They're going to be like two of these 6 Pluses duct taped together. There's a difference between what you could get 4 years ago and what you can do with the technology now. And I think they're going to be more comfortable.
Yeah, but part of the reason why, like, this is something that continuously bugs me with how Apple does marketing, and that is that they keep ignoring what they've said previously, because their gigantic argument against larger phones was the reach, that you can't reach the top corner. Now, that's actually a UX issue. They could have redesigned their UX to make that a non-issue, but their solution that they're rolling out now, that you double tap on the screen and then the screen slides down to only take up half the space so that you can reach everything, what the hell is that? That is the worst solution to a problem I've ever seen in my life.
Well, I mean, what do you think the solution would be?
Waste half the screen to fix the problem. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
bigger hands.
When I say it's not a solution, what I mean is this is not the kind of solution that Apple is known for. Apple is known for making solutions that are actually really ingenious. That is it's not even a cop-out. It's the type of solution that Android would never do because people would laugh at them, right?
Well,
Think about it. If Android said, you have giant phones, double click and it'll slide down, right? All the Apple fans would be like, oh, it's the worst thing I've ever seen. That is so terrible. Apple would never do that, except that's what Apple did.
All right. I haven't tried it. It may be a point where I will try it and go, hey, that's the dumbest thing ever. I'll I'll wait till I can do it myself.
From a UX design standpoint, it looks terrible. Like that specific
does.
solution looks ridiculous.
No argument.
And so,
no argument, but however, it is, I think, a functional solution in some ways. If you are like doing something with your phone where you can only hold it with one hand, it's better that it does that than it doing nothing and you having to like drop your phone essentially to try to access something like up where you can't reach.
Right.
I'll tell you, this isn't an issue with large Android phones.
Okay.
So, if that's an issue with the iPhone, it means there's a UX problem. And that's the kind of stuff that you would expect Apple to have solved. And
I don't think they wanted to solve it. I think they still think that they were right.
They're trying to hold on to the UX of the old phone and not change it. But the old phone was specifically designed to allow you to have full reach, right? So when they're scaling it up, it doesn't work anymore. And rather than rethinking it, they've come up with some sort of kind of, bootstrap solution that doesn't seem to be working. And like Simon said, we have to wait until it rolls out. But it's the kind of stuff that I'm surprised by. There was a journalist in Norway who wrote this really nice article that unfortunately is not available in English, where he said the Apple releases this time were boring and not what you expect from Apple. And I actually agree with that. There's nothing revolutionary in any of this. They are rolling out new phones that have lower resolution than many of the phones that are already available, that have features that have been available in Android for 2 years. And they're rolling out a watch that just combines stuff that everyone else has been doing for a long time.
Yeah, but you can say that about just about every product that they've had. You can say that about the iPad. The iPad wasn't the first iPad. The watch is not going to be the first iWatch. They didn't invent the first computer. They didn't do this.
No. The difference is when the iPad rolled out, that was the first time anyone had made a tablet type computer that actually works.
Right? No, well, now you're saying that they have to work. No, there was plenty of tablets before the iPad. Lots of that. I remember a CES that was like dedicated to like tablets. That all sucked.
Exactly, and I also remember the typical response when the iPad was announced, time and time again, people going, "That's dumb. All that is a big iPhone that can't make phone calls. What kind of idiot's going to buy one of those?"
But that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is what we've expected from Apple is something that revolutionizes things.
Right.
This time, what they've released is basically a minor refinement of something that already exists. The only difference between what Apple is releasing now and what Samsung and other Android manufacturers are releasing is that Apple has a dedicated fan base who will buy into whatever they do. And it comes both with the watch and with the payment options. Because both of these things already exist and have existed in the marketplace for a long time. The difference is when Apple runs it, there's a huge fan base who will automatically buy it, and that makes it more relevant in the market space, right? But we have to make a distinction between, did they actually invent something new, or is it simply that it's Apple releasing it?
I don't think they claim to invent anything new.
Exactly.
They've always been about doing the integration between the hardware and the software better than anyone else, and they could have launched a watch 2 years ago and come up with the same crap that you see on Android watches now. They try to release something that is meaningful, and I think that they have done it. The OS and the phones is really intriguing. I think some of the features that you see aren't really duplicated in anything else right now, so they find a couple of key ways that they can innovate. I'm impressed with the watch, specifically at that it is really a timepiece. They were very careful to make sure that it is a very precise device. And I really wasn't expecting that. Like, you just thought it would be like a small Android or a small iPhone. But they really try to make it a great watch. And then they have this very strange kind of OS that blows up and shrinks down, like the apps and stuff, which was cool. They decided to go with their own app store specifically for the phone, which I think makes sense. So this is a new device, a new category. I mean, I don't know what Android watches have been doing, but this is really has a lot of really different features. The fact that, for example, I believe, and obviously we haven't seen it yet, but it seems to be the first watch with extremely accurate biosensors for determining, your pulse. That they seem to go through a lot of lengths to make sure that it did have that particular feature, which is great.
That's kind of my point. It's not that the pulse feature that they have in there is basically a laser that shoots onto your skin and can tell what's going on.
And you see that on other watches?
That was first launched by the Basis band a couple of years ago, and it actually works really well. but it already exists. Like both that and
exactly. But they don't have to come up with it. They just have to make it work, and they have to make people accept it.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. What I'm saying is, when things like this happen, it's important for the regular fan base to realize that this isn't something that only came from Apple. This is something that exists elsewhere, and there are actual options, and they're building on other people's research, right? That this isn't completely invented from them, because even though even though you disagree with me, you know that the majority of people who use Apple believe that Apple invented the planet Earth and everything around it, right?
I don't think that's true. I think that's a straw man argument. I mean, that's the thing that we see. As soon as they announced Apple Pay, I got a whole bunch of stuff in my Twitter stream of, oh, we've had NFC phones for 2 years. Yeah, I remember. And I remember 2 years ago when it was referred to as nobody freaking cares. Because nobody did the work of making sure that there were just enormous amounts of vendors that would accept this. When you look at what Apple did in the announcement, they spent 5 seconds talking about the technical aspects of NFC. We have an NFC area, and there's nothing there about, oh, we invented it. They just said, no, we have it. And then they spent the rest of the time going, and here's why it's important. Because we went out and we got Target, and we got Walgreens, and we got all these department stores, and we got Disney, and we got all these people to support that. And that's why you care, because of the integration piece. And then there's all these folks going, oh, they pretend to invented NFC. No, they didn't.
No, that's true. They didn't invent NFC, but I have to say, this has nothing to do with Apple, but this is actually to do with internationalization. One of the arguments that they made when they talked about what is it called, Apple Pay, right? Apple Pay.
Apple Pay.
The example they did with the sliding of the card, and they were saying, this is antiquated technology. That only applies to North America. Right. No, sorry, that only applies to the U.S. If you come to Canada, all your credit cards will have an NFC chip on it that you just touch on the thing and it pays. If you go to Europe, you actually can't pay with a magnetic stripe.
Sure,
if you have a U.S. credit card, you're in big trouble because they won't accept it, because that type of technology has already been implemented everywhere. So the problem that he outlined is a problem that's very much an American problem, as in the United States. Now, when I see that, what I'm thinking is this going to introduce a system where you can only pay with Apple Pay, so that the stores will have 2 devices? They'll have your regular card reader that takes your regular NFC card, and then you'll have a separate device just for Apple Pay. And then if you want Google Wallet on anything, you have to have that in addition, because if that's the case, this is highly problematic. If, on the other hand, it's a rollout that allows everything, then it's awesome, because this would then herald in proper NFC payments and would solve all these things. So I can pay with my Android phone, and you can pay with your Apple phone, or you can use your credit card that has a thing on it, or your watch, or your headset, or your glasses, or whatever the hell you want. If that happens, it's awesome. If it's a proprietary thing, it doesn't.
It works with normal contactless receivers. The places that have them, it works with those. Apple is just going to be better at pushing out other, more places supporting them, because they have the great built-in support, as you guys have no doubt seen. One of the defaults with this is, first off, they've spent the last kind of couple of years getting people used to Passbook, used to having their boarding passes and their movie tickets. And again, that was something when they first announced that, all you got was people going, that's stupid. Who's going to keep a boarding pass on your phone? What happens if your battery runs out and you can't get on your plane, et cetera, et cetera? Not everybody uses it now. So you're used to the technology, and that's where it's going to sit, is inside Passbook. It's also going to default, if you want it to the credit card that you already have in your iTunes account. And Apple have, I can't remember what the number is, some ridiculous 100 million amounts of people who already have that, more than PayPal and Amazon put together, I believe, is the number. So they're instantly going to make this stuff more prevalent. And the fact is, if you're even an NFC user or Google Wallet user on Android, you should be happy about this, because you're going to find more places that will take it.
Yes, Morten, you should every night you should give thanks to Apple for all the great stuff they have made possible in your life, Morten, because without them, I mean, they are going to do this with payments. I mean, once Apple gets into it, enough people are going to support it so that it makes it viable for other companies to come in and say, hey, we've also got NFC, let's integrate some sort of Google Payments system into it and make it popular. They're the only people that can do it.
I don't disagree with that. That's what I said. When Apple rolls it in, they bring in a new they bring in a new group of consumers that all of a sudden everyone buys into whatever they say. Of course, there are issues with that because they could introduce something idiotic and then everyone buys into that. Like, okay, let me say it this way. I think the smartwatch is stupid. I don't care who made it. It's still a stupid thing, right? The problem I have with this, now that Apple rolls it out, everyone's going to get one. Yeah. This is something we actually don't need. This is a peripheral that has no real purpose, right?
So did you think nobody needed iPads and stuff, like tablets and stuff?
No, no. When I saw the iPad, I was like, holy shit, this thing is going to sell like crazy because it simplifies computing to people. I was one of the crazy people who said this is a good idea, right? I have that on record somewhere I can show you. I actually wrote an article about it.
No, I believe you.
I
think you're wrong about the watch.
The smartwatches I have an issue with because they try to solve something that isn't an issue to begin with. They're not introducing it's not the, we're solving a problem people didn't know they had. This is, we're solving a problem that doesn't exist.
Which
right?
Is perfect.
You don't need to have
No, I disagree with you. I mean, think about what they did with phones. Remember where phones were before, like an iPhone? They were ridiculous. I think it's the same thing. Like, they have now a device that is in a new category, and you're going to find that a lot of people come up with uses that you're not thinking about that are going to work really well on the watch. I mean, the BIOS stuff I think is pretty cool.
Right. Yeah.
And to have a device that is always in your body, I think, is going to be, useful in the future, and things are going to come out that nobody's thinking about right now.
Absolutely. I think that's the thing. It's a new category, and the technology is wide open for some really interesting kind of, oh, yeah, I never thought about that. Everything from as simple as, can you have your watch wake up or lock your computer? Little things like that, which I'd love to be able to have, to, having, get a little haptic buzz when important emails come in so that I'm not kind of checking to see if it happens all the time, just, if it's from these people, oh, just got one. I think there's absolutely going to be some really interesting things that come in the next year or two from having a good wearable device.
Can you both hold up your left hand?
What?
Can you both hold up your left hand?
Yep.
None of us.
Yeah,
no,
so
absolutely.
The world stopped wearing watches because.
But that's because watches suck. And you know what? You know what's the most ridiculous thing that people do today?
They buy those giant ones.
You know what I hate? Like, I'm driving and I go, oh, what time is it? I got to pull out my phone and go like this to check the time. That is a problem. You shouldn't have to do that.
With this thing, you'll have to pull out your arm and do something to get it to show you what time it is.
No, it detects when you're moving your hand and you just look at it.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Just like the Samsung Gear does, right?
I didn't say they invented it first. I'm not.
No. Have you actually tried something that does that? It doesn't really work all that well. And I'm not saying that we haven't seen how Apple has implemented it, but I can tell you there are two issues with when you do motion, then it turns on. One is you have people like me. I don't stand still ever, so anything that's motion activated, when I wear it, is always on. It just burns out the battery immediately, right? The solution that is being introduced for things like that is that you have to do specific types of motion, so it's like tracking specific types of motion. The problem is those types of motions are not natural. And like I said, I don't know exactly what they're going to do with this Apple Watch, but based on previous experience, unless they have learned from all the mistakes that all the other companies have made, this is actually going to be a bit annoying. That's what they complain about with every single Android watch, and they all do it differently. So it's not like they're all doing the same dumb thing and Apple's going to come up with something else. Everyone's trying to solve the same problem, and they haven't been able to find a way of doing this in a way that actually works. So the second you look at your watch, it tells you the time. It's more like the second you look at your watch, you shake your hand and then it tells the time. Or you have to look at your watch and then wait for it to boot up to show you the time, or something else, right?
The other thing I wanted the watch for is so that I can find my stupid phone, because I lose it all the time.
Well, I think, Apple have a pretty good track record of not shipping stuff that works badly, I think. And I think they have a good track record of years of working with accelerometers. They've got, the stuff that works in the iPhone with movement that people don't even think about. I'll still talk to people that have no idea, that will say things like, oh, it's really weird. I guess there's something that means that when you hold the iPhone up to your ear, you don't press the buttons.
That's right.
Yeah, that's because the screen turns off when you do that.
Yeah.
Does it? I had no idea it does that. It's like, no, it just works. And I think it's going to just work with this one as well. I give them that. Do I entertain the possibility That it might not, that it might be dumb, that it might be stupid, sure. But I think it's pretty small possibility with the attention that they tend to pay on these things. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it.
So let's talk completely practical things. First of all, when is the watch actually being released? Because it's not out
Yeah, early next year.
Yeah,
So
that's all we have is early next year. And as a developer, for example, they're being conspicuous about not releasing information. With the version of Xcode that came out, the Gold Master that came out a couple of days ago, there's stuff in there for Apple Pay. There's stuff in there for HomeKit and HealthKit, which is the tying into the biometrics and home automation. That's there. There's nothing been released for WatchKit yet. There's no official documentation. We don't know anything more than the press release.
Right. And if you weren't a developer who has to figure out how this works now, would you recommend people buy the first generation, or would you tell people to wait for like the second rollout to happen?
If you're someone who's a comfortable early adopter, yeah, go for it. In the same way that, because I think it's going to be a game-changing technology, in the same way that was it worth picking up the first iPhone? Sure, absolutely. Did you want to replace it when version 2 came along? Yes. And if you're looking at the watch as, well, it's a watch, so it's an heirloom, it's something I'm going to gift to my grandchildren, well, no, I wouldn't make that assumption. I'd make the assumption that there's a 2-3 year lifespan on it, at which point you're going to get rid of it. But let's face it, if you're spending $300 on a watch and you're approaching that as, well, it should be an heirloom for my grandchildren. Doesn't matter what kind of watch you get. $300 is not that level.
A lot of money, yeah.
Right. It's not a Rolex. It's not.
Oh, you're right. It's not a Rolex. You're right.
No.
Yeah,
So,
most of the watches people wear now cost way more than that.
Right.
Crazy, but that's what.
Well, it's because nobody buys watches anymore. I guess if they're going to buy one,
Right.
it better be gold and have inlaid,
Yeah, pieces of the Titanic.
inlaid unicorn horns or something. Yeah.
Pieces of the Titanic.
If you're one of these people that wants to get the diamond encrusted Omegas, fine. This is not aiming for that part of the market. But if you're someone who spend a couple of $100 on a G-Shock or something, and you're kind of nerdy and you like gadgets, yeah, this is right up your alley. Why not? It looks great. And if you're in the Apple, world, the Apple walled garden, yeah, you're going to find this really cool and useful.
Yeah, I guess we have to wait and see when it actually rolls out and how people respond to it in real life.
Right.
So what is that? What is that on your wrist, Morton?
Oh, this is a jawbone.
The Java one.
Okay.
It's my
It's obsolete now.
My feeble attempt at becoming healthy.
Right.
Oh no, that actually brings up something I wanted to say. As far as I understood, this Apple Watch is the same as all the other smartwatches in that it's not a standalone device. It has to be paired with something for it to be able to do all the stuff it's doing. And that's
Some
also
of the stuff. I mean, not all the stuff. It's some.
No, not all the time, but to get it to
Yeah,
do
for full
things like connect to the
functionality.
internet
Yeah,
or whatever, you have to.
talk on it. Yeah.
Yep.
This is something that I think is one of the issues with the whole smartwatch category, that you're required to carry around two things to really get it to do what you want to do, right? Because what I would assume would appeal to people about a watch, like if you just talk about the biometrics issue and you just talk about, if people are sporty and they want to know what's going on, you would think, oh, I can get a watch and slap it on, and then I can get all the data. I don't have to carry around my stupid phone and strap it to my arm or do whatever people are doing, right? But that's not really the case. Either you have to wear the watch and then go and sync your watch to the phone later to get all the data, or you're basically running around with two devices now instead of one. And that also, there's like two pieces to that, because I like this because it tracks me, but it doesn't tell me anything. It's just a dead band that just sits on my arm. It has some sort of device inside. You have to charge it once every 2 weeks. And then when I sync it with my phone, so when I get close to my phone, it syncs up, and then it'll tell me stuff. But it doesn't distract me in the same way that my e-reader doesn't distract me when I'm reading. These watches, I think it would be better if they were specifically designed to do similar things, that they were just specifically designed to just be dead watches until you go pair them. But it wasn't always on and always doing stuff. So I'm not sure I particularly like the idea of this constant notifications of things that are going on, because it'll be the difference between you sitting in a meeting and people having their phone on the table and then doot, doot, or now they go. It's the same. It doesn't take the problem away. The problem is distraction. It's not that the information isn't there.
Yeah, I have no argument with that. I think that, there's definitely going to be a level of doofuses staring at their phone every 10 seconds. I think that'll be incredibly customizable, because they want to stop it being a new meme of being a what's the watch hole, basically going, what, I'm already always staring at it. Like a glass hole with the glass stuff,
I'm just seeing the memes already.
But yeah, I don't disagree with that. I find it a little, would I like it to be a totally standalone device? Sure, but I imagine there's just, an incredible amount of functionality you can get if you're willing to offset some of this technical issue to another device.
That part of it was really interesting to me, like the part about what things they took away from the device and what things they left. And like it doesn't have a camera. I think they were very smart about what they allowed in the phone, and realize, when you go jogging, walking, whatever, you're probably going to take your phone with you because you're going to listen to some music or a podcast. That's what I do. What that does prevent you from doing now is every 5 minutes pulling out your phone, or like be walking around looking at your phone. Really, you're just going to lift up your watch, read the tweet, and then put it down or keep on going or stop and do something, which I think is a little bit safer. It's not the Dick Tracy watch, but maybe it didn't need to be,
Right. And I was really glad to see that it didn't have something dumb like a headphone socket in it, that people are going to be moving the arm up and down and plugging it. I'm glad it doesn't have that. I think it's really nice to have that closed watch and just the little digital crown, whatever they call it. But yeah, so I think there's been some fairly significant decisions, because that they thought about this stuff. Well, what should it play music? Could you have a camera? Can you plug headphones into it? And then afterwards, no, because Apple do a good job at saying no.
It would be so funny if it was called the iWatch and had a camera. That would be that would be such a disaster. So on that topic, Apple Watch, Apple Pay.
Mm-hmm.
Surprising.
Will the next phone be an Apple phone and then an Apple Pad? Are they moving away from the i brand?
Yes.
Yeah, that would make sense. I could believe it. Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
It's obviously branding. I mean, it's stronger when you mention the brand name with the product. An i whatever. I mean, there's non-Apple things that I think are i stuff, right? Like the iPotty, for example.
The what?
The iToilet. Yeah, there's like an iPotty, a training.
Oh, you mean all those spin-offs that everyone else calls it? iSalt, iPepper. Yes.
But nobody can say the Apple Potty. That would be reaching their branch, I guess.
And I would agree that I think there's a level where they quite decidedly enjoy the kind of ownership aspect of that. If you speak to someone, you say, do you have a wearable? Yeah, I have a watch, and you'll know what that means. I have a watch, and people might get annoyed at that, but they're trying to own that space. And you could imagine being that I have a phone, I have a watch. I don't know whether we'll just suddenly see the pad. It's the Apple Pad next time. I don't know about that, but you never know. You never know.
Yeah, that sounds like a very poorly thought through.
No, because the other option is like to have the Motorola XB 5000 C1A gold version with the plus whatever.
The
sports model.
Like, I still don't know. When you guys mention the phone names, I have no idea what phones you're talking about. Zero.
Yeah, I have the Nexus, and then I'll buy probably the Nexus 6 when it comes out. The crazy naming conventions, I tried to understand that, because I noticed it more when I moved here. Like when I lived in Europe, everyone had phones with all these crazy names, because there are way more phones available in Europe and Asia than there are here. Because of how phones are sold. And people are used to these really cryptic names. And when I moved here, I realized everything is renamed here. And it doesn't just apply to phones. It applies to completely different categories, like the SLRs. So in Europe, you have, for instance, Canon has a series of SLRs, and they go from EOS 1 to 135, 50, 100, 500, 600, 800, 1,000, 3,000, 5,000, right? That's the system they have. In Europe, in here, they're now called Rebel XTI, Rebel Elan, like they get names. And honestly, that's not me being offensive. I honestly think it's because they think North Americans are too stupid to follow the numbering convention. So they have to give them actual names for branding purposes. Because those brands...
It very much sounds that there's people at Canon going, Americans are too stupid to follow
numbers.
I
honestly think so, because the naming convention that you apply to the North American version of the products makes no sense. Like the numbering conventions they use in Europe and Asia actually make sense. You can track the versions and figure out which one's the higher or lower number and where they rank in amongst each other. Having products with actual names like Rebel or Elan doesn't tell you anything about where that specific...
Yeah, but I mean, like, to me, like, you know, when you say, like, the Nexus 6 versus the 4 and the 5,
yeah,
and the Motorola, whatever, and I just don't even know what you're talking about. Like, if somebody says an iPhone, I know what that is.
But that's because it's one brand. You can't... That's not an argument. That's just because it's one brand, right? The Nexus is one brand. It's the same exact thing. So the Nexus is a phone. You buy Nexus 1 was the first one, 2 is the second, 3 is the third, and so on. Just like the iPhone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? There's no difference there. The only difference is instead of having one option, I have like 500 different brands I can choose from, right? It makes it harder when I buy a new phone because I have to figure out which brand should I go with this time, right? But at the same time, the idea of a marketplace that challenges itself and innovates new things is different in the Android space than it is in the iPhone space because there is competition within the same space, right? It does lead to terrible things like the whole Galaxy line, which truly is a massive distraction powered by marketing. But at the same time, it just also lead to options for people. And that's the other thing I noticed here. We now have either 2 or 3 iPhone types. And we have the watches have multiple different watches in multiple different configurations, and you can change them a lot. And that also seems like a really big step away from the general policy of Apple, which is we have one thing, it's awesome, buy it.
Yeah, but that's, and I think that's actually a really, this is an interesting thing because that's a part that a lot of people, particularly the Apple haters, continually complain about. They don't give us enough choices. And now they give you a bunch of choices, and it's, oh, look, they're just capitulating to people giving choices. Okay, whatever. I think, you're talking about a watch. You're talking about something that is immensely personal and visible and on you all the time. So I think the providing multiple straps, a couple of sizes, doing it smart enough that that's not men's and ladies. It's just slightly larger, slightly smaller. What do you want? I think is a good thing. I like to see Apple doing that. That was really nice for me to see that.
I think that was a recognition of the market as well. The market speaks in those terms, and since you are getting a watch, then you have to sort of appeal to the established vocabulary. It very may well be that in a few years you do only have one watch, but people need things in different sizes. Like I have a smaller hand and a smaller wrist than people who are bigger, and I don't want that. I may not want like a humongous phone because watch. Because I've seen those like gargantuan watches and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know. So the choice is really a good thing for somebody like me, and it may be for other people as well.
And they seem to have spent as much time thinking about the straps as the watch. It isn't just, oh, we're going to give you some just generic rubber piece of crap that you can buy on a rack in a watch replacement store in any mall. And it's like, no, we've spent a lot of time thinking about how these straps work and how they join, and they're not annoying, and it looks great.
It looks like they've actually brought in people who make watches to look at this, and the sizing thing I think is really important because what you have seen is all these other devices, especially the Samsung Gear watches, they're gigantic. And I can say that because I've tried them on and they're all too big for my wrist. Now I don't have a particularly large wrist, but I don't have a particularly small wrist either. And it just basically, the sizing they have excludes, I think, pretty much everyone who's not gigantic. from wearing them, right? And by rolling out different sizes, you allow people from cultures where people generally are physically smaller it's more accessible to them. You allow it to be accessible to people who are just physically smaller. You get a bigger share of the female marketplace, which is also something I really wonder about. Is the adoption here? Like, I wonder if the Apple Watch will bridge that gap between gadget obsession, which is generally something that men are more associated with, to this is a fashion accessory that also works, and they get more women to adopt a new technology that generally, like, how many women do you know who have what are they called? The other watch, the first one that came out.
The Timex calculator watch.
No, the one that Scott Frigette has, the Pebble.
Oh, the Pebble, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a very very geeky watch that I think predominantly is owned by men. And one of my female developer friends was asking, on Facebook, how many women are going to buy this watch? And a crapload of women was like, I'm buying it right now if it was available. Right. That is a game changer.
Yep, absolutely. And that's, I think with that attention to things like the sizing and the straps and the colors and looking at what else Apple have done. I mean, them bringing on Angela Arendts as now in marketing from Burberry. So, they're bringing on people that have years and years of expertise in the high-end fashion arenas, and they're paying a lot of attention to this. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think they looked at what people, do with wearable devices, and it would have been to me like saying, we're going to come out with an Apple shirt, and it's one size. It's stretchy, but it fits everyone.
Apple shirt.
The Apple shirt.
It's a biosensor on your entire body.
It would be like, the Back to the Future jacket that goes, it like shrinks with the, when you press a button and stuff. Anyways.
Now I can't get that out of my head. It's powered by sweat. The more you work out, the stronger you get. What do you think is going to happen with battery power? Because that's what all the technologists are asking.
It's actually been announced or been discovered that it actually lasts. It's expected to last just one day.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to recharge it every night. It's actually in an article by Macworld, I think.
That seems to be the issue with all of these, that everything lasts one day. But then again, my phone just lasts one day now, too, because there's so much stuff.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get it, but I can't wait for the 2.0 version that's thinner and where the battery lasts like twice as long or something. I'm surprised they didn't put battery little things on the little wrist things.
Right.
Say what?
Somebody will come up with that, I bet.
The things on the side that pull more battery power in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
like they have with cars. You'll just have charging stations that you can walk around. You're holding onto two electrodes like in a Frankenstein movie. Oh, my iPhone, my watch is low.
See, I was thinking about this whole battery thing. It was primarily because I noticed that everyone, for marketing purposes, are now giving away those battery sticks for your cell phone, right? So if you go to events now, almost everyone will have a little, extra juice for your phone. Yeah. And that's like a really nasty indictment of the whole cell phone industry, that there's now a market for external batteries for your phone.
I think I predict the Black Widow watch band. It'll have like those circle things, and it'll be like 10 of those power things around your wrist, and you dock the phone into that. It's going to be a product.
So someone was saying, what if, but that's not an issue if you have one of those wireless chargers where you just have your phone and you just put it on the charger, and then when you walk out of the office, it's fine. And I know of people who have 2 or 3 of them in the house, so wherever they are, they just put their phone down and it charges. Now, what I was thinking was, I'm pretty sure we're going to get to a point where you will get some sort of wireless charger that you can put next to your workstation or bed or wherever, where just the proximity of it is enough for it to charge. So if you're sitting working, the charger will, sit maybe half a foot away from your keyboard and charge your phone or your watch as you're working, so you don't have to. But that's probably, a little bit into the future. But that's really, if they can't figure out the battery, that's really where we need to be, because charging your phone every night, they have the whole sleep tracking thing, but you can't, because you need to charge your damn phone. No, charge your damn watch. You can't track your sleep unless you charge it before you go to sleep. But then that's going to become like, oh, I can't go to sleep for an hour because I need to charge my watch first.
The answer is buy two. Have your daytime watch and your nighttime watch.
Yes, that sounds like a really good solution for Apple.
So you know what? I always made fun of my wife when she was always telling me that her dream would be to have all devices have no wires whatsoever, not even for power. And I used to make fun of her, but you know that's actually something that Nikola Tesla came up with, like way back in the, I don't know what, 50s, 60s, 70s or something, wherever he was around. He actually came up with that idea of providing universal wireless power to everybody. Of course, it would have fried all the humans, I think. But
1800s.
Yeah, 1800s? Wow,
yeah.
That far back.
Yeah, he didn't fry humans, he fried cows. He put up a big-ass antenna and tried to transmit power over the air and ended up electrifying the grass around, and then all the cattle and everything was like, God, everything is on.
Well, that's the thing, is as you're talking about the whole, you know, you're just sitting typing away and you're imagining this device that's going to charge your watch that's just radiating there. All I'm thinking is, what's it doing to your kidneys at the same time? You know?
Kidneys?
Yeah,
what's it doing to everything else?
Yeah, well, exactly. Pick any organ.
There's definitely some issues. My wife was saying that the other day, that, you know, there's so many things that we're wearing now, and what is that actually doing to us? You know, because it's not just that. When I say wearing, I don't mean necessarily just a watch. We're also wearing our phones all the time. We're surrounded by, you know, all this stuff. And of course, there are all the crazy people that think that microwave allergies is a thing, which is not. And that you can, you know, somehow get adversely affected by just being in an environment that has Wi-Fi enabled, which you can't. But there is some concern in the idea of having Bluetooth-enabled devices strapped to your body, because that's, you know, persistent radio waves constantly happening in a specific location that doesn't move. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But all the research on the cell phone brain damage and cell phone brain cancer stuff has just fallen apart because it doesn't actually show anything. So there's theoretical concern, but I'm not sure it's really valid in terms of what's actually happening in the real world.
Right.
And like we've seen before, once Apple rolls it out, a lot of the panicked people who think that everything's going to kill them all of a sudden buy it anyway because it's Apple. Right? So.
Well, if I'm going to get killed by somebody, I want to get killed by Apple.
There you go. Well said.
How terrible would it be to figure out that you're actually going to be killed by an Nexus 4?
Because at least for that period of time, you'll be the coolest person in the planet.
Exactly.
I'll make sure this gets saved for later, so when we are asked, we'll be like, Apple did it.
You know, I have to say, like, about Apple, that I really missed the time, the period in time where to have an iPad where you were like almost a superstar, and people would come ask you like, hey, can I check it out? Now it's like so common, like you get a new iPad and it's like NBD. That's why I want the watch. I want to be cool for at least like 3 months.
Exactly. But yeah, that's the whole thing. If it's going to give me some terrible disease, I mean, imagine finding out you got a brain tumor and having to go, I got this from a POS Sony Ericsson. Oh, great. I'm now embarrassed on top of everything else.
Yeah, I can agree with that statement. That would be rather unfortunate. So Simon Allardyce.
Yes, sir.
Looking into the future, what are you going to build for the Apple Watch, if you could build anything?
If I could build, really good question. I don't know yet. I'll just have to admit that straight off. I know as a developer, the first thing we're going to be able to do is just get small glances, but some point next year we'll be able to do full native applications. And I have no idea, because the first things that come to mind are stuff for tracking biometrics, but I want to see what's already in there, because I don't know yet, and there's interesting things when you look at the health app on the iPhone. You know, you'll get these kind of cool things like it's going to track electrodermal activity. So those sensors are going to do way more than just heart rate, and I want to find out, you know, can you do stress detectors? Can you do biofeedback? Can you do things where you could use your watch and help you with a meditation practice? Those would be cool. I'd be interested in that stuff first.
Yeah, the first time I saw the the what's it called?
Electrodermal activity.
Yeah,
They did in the
that.
previous version. They called it galvanic skin response, and I think that's what they've changed
Yeah,
it to.
it's you see it in hospitals all the time, and there's a couple of watches that already have them.
Right.
And I remember when the first time I saw it, all I was thinking was, if you connect that to the internet, then you can run lie detection on the whole planet.
Right.
Then you can make sure, like, you can actually, if let's say some politician was wearing the Apple Watch, right, and someone hacked into their iCloud account, they'd be able to tell if that politician was lying or being stressed out on stage while they were talking, right?
And how brilliant that would be. You know,
That would be so awesome to be like.
I just watched the movie Fed Up yesterday, the documentary that came out recently about the whole sugar being pushed into the food system.
Yeah.
And some of the, you know, like with the politician, I can't remember her name, from I think Minnesota it was, basically standing up and trying to persuade how, you know, tomato sauce on a pizza should be legitimately considered a vegetable. You know, I'd love to have the idea that there's some device is going, no, I really do believe that.
That would be great. But first, Simon, you need to build that app so that I can find my phone, please.
Yeah, that'll work. Well, that's the thing. You want it to talk. You want it to be a bit of a. You are getting warmer. You're getting warmer.
Yeah. You want it to be like helpful, but not too helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
It's somewhere in this room.
And give you some
I already knew
prompters.
that.
If I just told you immediately where it was, that's not helping you. I need to help you. I need to help you discover it yourself.
Yes, you need to learn to pay attention to your own stuff.
Yep.
It's within a 10-foot radius.
And if you don't find it in the next 10 seconds, you get a shock. The shocks will start to get more and more intense. Oh, that would be brilliant. Imagine if those two of those sensors could do that. Ow!
This sounds really promising. Looking forward to that. But on this topic, but slightly off the topic, there was this whole thing that happened a couple of weeks ago now, the iCloud breach. That Apple tried
Breach
to.
not a good word.
Well, this hack then. That Apple tried to explain away, and then it turned out there was actually a hack in their system.
Why did they try to explain it away more than, like, why are you so paranoid?
They were first saying, no, they were saying that it wasn't them. They were saying explicitly, this didn't happen on our system. And then it was like, no, it totally did.
Well, no, I think their first one and I haven't seen anything where they said it was nothing to do with us. I saw the first release, which is, we are doing a lot of activity on this, finding out what the devil happened. And then they said, there is no, there was no breach to our system, meaning that's what folks were saying that first day. Oh, people have obviously hacked the iCloud servers. No, they haven't. They've gone to individual accounts.
What I mean is, they said this didn't happen with our system. It happened through a third party. Like, they were actually blaming Dropbox for it specifically, which turned out to be not true. But it's irrelevant, because breaches like this happen to all cloud services. And you know, if I'm going to play the paranoid lunatic for a couple of minutes,
when did you
stop? I was talking to my my class earlier this week, and trying to explain to them the history of the web, right, and the history of the internet and what it's for. And the internet and the web is for distributing information. And the more information we put in, the more information is made available to other people. It could be behind any kind of encryption you want, but it is technically available to someone, and it could be reached if you manage to breach the systems. And what I'm wondering is, last year or the year before, there were some people that were starting to mull about 23andMe, that company that does, you do like a cheek swab, and then you send it in, and you get genetic markers, and you are told like who you relate to historically and all that kind of stuff, right? And they were doing quite extensive research on expanding that into looking at, you know, people's current health and what they were doing. And there were some people that were speaking up and saying, this is kind of questionable because there's some medical ethics that go into this.
Yep.
Quite significant. And I'm interested to see how that is going to be processed, because all these smart devices from all the different manufacturers track medical statistics on people. And I'm wondering, you know, when you start having devices that track all that stuff in such great detail, at what point do we get do we breach that line that goes between this is just interesting information for you to I can now take all this collated information from all these billions of people who are using these devices and use it for something and not necessarily something good. So I would like to see someone from Google, Apple, whatever, talk in more detail about what they're actually doing with this information and what can be done with it and how they're safeguarding it from being used for bad things.
Right. No, absolutely.
Bioethics.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I have a 23andMe and Me account, and yeah, it would be. Is there anything particularly sensitive about that? No, but would I be uncomfortable with folks having access to all my health traits and stuff? Yeah, that would be weird. I don't want that to happen. Absolutely.
It's just interesting to me. This is the stuff that keeps.
Have you guys done that? Have you had your genome decoded?
Have not.
Okay.
I considered it at one point, but I think because I'm cheap, I just it was purely like, I'm not paying that kind of money for something I don't need. Grr. All my money goes to T-shirts with ridiculous drawings of dogs and outfits. Like, seriously, I just don't have the money. So, yes. Will you? You said you will buy the new phone, right? You're buying the giant phone, Simon?
Yes, absolutely. I've already had it ordered, so hopefully I'll get it in a week.
I'll buy the smaller phone, of course.
Right.
So, did you already order it?
Yes.
No, the other guy, Ray.
Oh, it hasn't been ordered yet. No.
You didn't stand in line for?
No, I'm not gonna. You can't stand in line yet. It's on 19th. I would do it, but I don't want to. I think I'm going to be out of town next week, so. That's
okay.
Happens,
so we will have to reconvene when you both have your new devices. I actually want to see. I actually want to talk to you, Simon, about how the giant device works. And,
right.
Yeah,
but not
curious about it.
I'd like to see you use it for a while, and then come back and report on whether or not a giant phone is good or not. Because, like I said, I'd really like to see whether it makes a difference in how you operate the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with Simon, he's much bigger than I am, so I think it'll probably make more sense for him. Like if I try to get that thing, it would not work for me at all. So it'll be a comfortable phone for you. So.
I have a friend. She's when she stands next to me on her dancing heels, she reaches to my shoulder, but she's really small, and she has which she loves. But it was really funny because I was picking her up from the bus one day, and she came to, it was like she was walking up to the car, and she was holding it against her face, and it was so gigantic against her face that it was blocking pretty much her entire face. So you can use it as like an anonymity device to be like, no one can see me because I'm wearing this huge phone on my face. I predict celebrities will use it to block their faces when they don't want to be seen. They'll walk around like, you can't see me. All right, that is full time for author content. We're glad to be back. For all of you watching, you could have asked questions during the show, but you didn't. That is too bad. So next time, click on the QA app, and you can ask questions during the show, and we might even answer. Author content is on the air every Friday at this time, which is noon PST. It's also taped and ends up on YouTube, so you can watch it later. Ray will do magic things and make it happen so that it appears on the iTunes as well. So you can listen to this without seeing any of the visual references. Or you can read the transcript if you type it out on your computer as you listen. So that's full time. We are back here next week. Until then, have fun. Don't wait too long for the watch to arrive. And we'll see you all next week. Goodbye.
Thanks.